Hey there, let's talk about something you probably used this morning and didn't give a second thought to. Your toaster. Yeah, that little box on your counter. Turns out, it's hiding some seriously clever engineering.
I mean, think about it for a second. How does your toaster know when the toast is done? You just push down that lever, and boom, a couple of minutes later, perfect toast pops right up. It feels so simple, right? But is it just a timer, or some kind of high-tech sensor, or, I don't know, magic? The answer is actually way more interesting than you'd think. It turns this simple appliance into a really cool little mystery.
See, the toaster we've got in our kitchens today didn't just poof into existence. No way. It's the end result of this 130-year-long story of inventors trying things, failing, and then having these brilliant breakthroughs. It's a story about taming fire, wrangling electricity, and eventually giving this little machine a brain. And to really get it, we have to start with what toasting even is. Okay, so you know that perfect golden brown color and that amazing toasty smell? That's all thanks to a chemical reaction. It's called the Maillard reaction. And really, that's the whole job of a toaster. It's designed to create just enough heat to kickstart that delicious reaction, but, not so much heat that your breakfast catches on fire. It's a fine line. So that begs the question, right? How did people make toast before we had these magic electric boxes? To figure that out, we've got to jump back in time, way back, to when making toast was a whole lot more involved. Now, you know what's crazy? For hundreds of years, nothing really changed. I mean, whether you were in the 1500s sticking bread on a long fork over a fire, or you were in the 1800s with some fancy-looking iron cage, it was basically the same deal. You had to stand there, hold the bread up to the flames, flip it at just the right second, and just hope you didn't end up with a piece of charcoal. Super inconsistent, super smoky, and you couldn't take your eyes off it for a second. You just know people were thinking there has to be a better way to do this.
And that better way? Well, it finally arrived with electricity. All of a sudden, we had this brand new kind of controlled fire that you could bring right inside, right into the kitchen. But, and this is a big but, getting it to work was a huge, huge engineering puzzle.
So here's the big problem they ran into. How do you make a wire that can get glowing red hot, cool down, and then do it all over again the next day without just breaking? Early inventors tried everything, but the wires they used, the filaments, were just too brittle. They'd work for a while, then snap. The whole idea of an electric toaster hinged on finding a material that could take that intense heat over and over and over again.
And you can really see the dilemma here. What they had just wasn't cutting it. It was unreliable, it broke all the time. What they needed was something strong, something consistent. The world was basically just waiting for someone to invent the perfect material.
And then in 1905 it happened, the breakthrough. An engineer named Albert Marsh creates something called nichrome. It's this alloy of nickel and chromium, and it was the perfect solution. This stuff could get red hot and stay that way without breaking a sweat. And this wasn't just about toast. Nichrome was the secret ingredient that made everything from electric irons to hair dryers possible. It completely changed the game. So, with nichrome figured out, the race was on. Just a few years later, in 1909, General Electric comes out with the D12 toaster, and it was a huge deal. But let's be real, it was still pretty basic. Kind of like an open-sided electric grill. You had to toast one side, then flip it, and you still had to stand there and watch it like a hawk so it didn't burn. So okay, problem number one, the heat problem, was solved. But the whole convenience thing, still a major work in progress. All right, so this next part is where the toaster gets its brain. The next big wave of invention was all about making the toaster do the work for you. It was about taking human error, like forgetting your toast is cooking, completely out of the picture. So there are two big challenges left. Number one, how do you get it to toast both sides of the bread at the same time? And number two, the real genius part, how do you get the machine to know when to stop toasting? How do you build in a timer that actually works? And the answer came in two brilliant steps. First, a guy named Lloyd Copeman invents an automatic bread turner in 1913. So, goodbye tongs. Then, the final piece of the puzzle. In 1921, Charles Strite patents the thing that makes a toaster, a timer that's connected to a spring that pops the toast up when it's done. That was it. That was the magic. And finally, in 1925, it all clicks together in one amazing device, the Toastmaster Model 1A1. This was the one. The first ever fully automatic pop-up toaster that people could actually buy for their homes. It did the whole shebang, browned both sides, had a timer, and popped the toast up when it was ready. The modern toaster had officially arrived. Now, you'd think that's the end of the story, right? But nope. The quest for the perfect slice of toast, well, it never really ended. So let's take a quick look at where the toaster is now and some of the wild places it might go next.
So these days, that original idea has split into kind of three main types. You've got your standard pop-up toaster, the one in most kitchens. Then there's the toaster oven, which is basically a little countertop oven that can do a whole lot more than just toast. And then you have the big one, the conveyor toaster. That's the workhorse you see at a hotel breakfast buffet, just cranking out toast. Different toasters for different jobs.
But honestly, the really fun stuff is when people get weird with it. I mean, someone connected a toaster to the internet back in 1990. That's basically the first smart appliance ever. People have made toasters that burn the weather forecast onto your bread, a toaster that runs its own computer operating system for some reason. And yeah, people are still trying to build a toaster that uses color sensors to get you that scientifically perfect shade of brown. The desire to innovate is still going strong for sure.
So, next time you go to make toast, just take a second and think about it. That simple little machine represents a 130-year-long chain of clever ideas and solutions. It went from a fork over an open flame to a smart appliance. It kind of makes you wonder, right? What other everyday object in your home is just one brilliant invention, one Nichrome moment, away from changing our lives all over again? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.